We doing everything they talk about. You know I'm everything a boss about. Not putting work and gotta toss them out. I'm really biting, they just barking out. I'm really riding, they just parking now. His street, what to talk about. See the big H when I'm walking out. Yeah.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to this episode of Base Coverage presented to you by Knoah Teamwear, and I'm your host, of course, the one and only Jamal Clay. Today, I am bringing in a special guest of mine. This guy's been all over Europe. Currently, right now, he's in Brazil, and I'm not even going to try to announce the team that he's playing for. I'm going to let him take care of that. But Joey Bradley, living for a living. What's going on, my man? How you doing?
Man, I appreciate you having me. It's fun to link up face to face, 1,000 miles away for the first time.
Most definitely. I think that's the benefit of being able to do this a little bit and keep in contact with, things that are going on outside the States, football wise as well. So
hell yeah. No, it's always fun to kind of make an internet friend become a real friend. This still isn't real life, but this is close.
Yeah, we live in a virtual world since COVID, so we'll take it.
Exactly.
But, hey man, we come to that point in the season where it's playoffs.
Playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs?
And yes, we are talking about playoffs, ELF playoffs. Matter of fact,
playoffs.
We're heading into the Wildcard Weekend, and we just ended a 14-week season of year 3 in the ELF. A very interesting year, but now we're at the point where, championship ball and the cream is going to rise to the top. So, obviously, the league added 2 more seeds, so now there's 6 teams versus 4. And they got the drama they wanted week 14 with a couple of games that had some meaning behind it. In this year's playoffs, we got some OGs in the returning champion being the Vikings. We got the Frankfurt Galaxy year 1 champions. And then we got the Russell Panthers returning after missing out on the playoffs in year 2. And then we got some 3 new teams coming in. Berlin Thunder, welcome to the party. The new redefined Stuttgart Surge, and the team that just seems unstoppable right now in the Rhine Fire. So we're going to dive into those teams a little bit. But before we get into that realm, I want to talk about and get your thoughts on it. Maybe give me a team you felt underachieved, or maybe that was a little bit of a disappointment this season.
Well, I mean, off the top of my head, it's 2. There's kind of one obvious one with like the Paris team had all the hype kind of preseason. You look at their skill position wise, like, man, if they play 7-on-7, it's like I don't see how they lose with Sweet and Zach back there at QB and Adria at tight end and all those French dudes. There's so much skill out there. So I think, they ran into the issue that, to me, that was like or maybe not the obvious one, but they had the most hype preseason.
Absolutely.
The most obvious one to me though is the Sea Dogs, Sea Dogs, because Sea Devils. Yeah, I can't even say it right. The Sea Devils, because back-to-back championship to 4-8.
Yeah.
And that's to me not too much changed. That defense was still playing good. I'm not a huge fan of their OC personally, and so I wasn't too shocked with how their offense didn't do that well this year, despite having some dudes. I thought their quarterback, the Preston Hare dude's a solid signing. Malik Stanley, to me, if I could pick any receiver in the league as a dude that I got one play, one-on-one, one throw it up to, Malik's probably my dude, to be honest. And so to go 4-8 from a past championship team, I got to say they were my disappointment of the year for sure.
Yeah, no, I hear you, man. Listen, coming into the season, we think about Hamburg. This is probably, 3 seasons, the most decorated ELF team. They seem to have had QB problems ever since, moving on from Jadrian Clark after year 1, who took them to the championship. They were a young team this year, battled a little bit of injuries in 3 seasons, 24-14. But this is the first year we're not going to have a Sea Devils team in it. So, no, I agree with you. I think it was a little bit of a disappointment coming from the type of ball that we're used to seeing from them. And it'll be interesting to see how they bounce back heading in the ELF 24. And then the Paris thing, I think they started to build momentum towards the second half of the year. But man, I've never seen a team with so much hype. And again, they probably battled the fact of, building a team from scratch, gelling, chemistry,
Exactly.
all that stuff. I think they'll be a lot better than the ELF 24. But, I think for the hype that they got, they definitely disappointed at least the first half. They finished strong, but at least the first half, it was a little bit of a disappointment.
Sure. And we'll probably get into it, but like, to me, it was evident how important, I'm going to butcher, isn't it? First time I've ever tried to say his name out loud. OC Andrew Widinger.
And it's okay. Listen, I butchered his name the first time.
Bro, I apologize because I got mad respect for the dude, and so I don't want to say his name wrong, but like, it was, to me, I'm a big IQBOC out here, majority of my career. So like, I have a big value on the coaching side of things. Yeah. And so to me, it couldn't be more obvious. You go from Zach Edwards in Barcelona with Kyle Sweet and OC out there, killing it. You take Zach and Sweet to a new squad with more talent, but a different OC, and they don't have the same success. And then you see what Jadrian and those boys have been doing in Fire with those play calls. And it's like, man, there's one common theme on both of those things, and it's the dude who's calling the plays.
No, absolutely. And this is a perfect segue into the next questions, because heading into this year, we had two teams for the first time finish the season undefeated. But if I'm being honest, one really looks almost unstoppable. Now, with that being said, looking at the remaining 5 teams that are in the playoffs, who would you say has the best shot to put out the Fire?
Ooh, that's tough, dude, because, although I will say, to start with the Fire, it's tough to see them losing with that offensive combination of dude calling plays, Jadrian playing how he's playing, and he's in total control of that offense. It's super obvious when you see him checking protection, or maybe he's checking the play. I don't know, but you can see they know the defensive front, the blitz that's coming. We're going to get single coverage. Let's hit that post. And then combined with like probably the most impressive group of skill positions that I've ever seen in Europe, bro. I mean, they lost Roby. Patterson comes in and does just as much, if not more. I mean, that last game against Galaxy, they didn't care who was at corner. They just said, coffee's better than dude. Don't matter the coverage. We're just throwing it up. But with all that said, and they got a defense that's maybe not the best, but it's good enough. Yeah. But with all that said, I don't know how tested the Fire are in a way, because they had 2 games against Paris, 2 games against Cologne, 2 games against the Swiss team, 2 games against Munich. So that's 6 games against 3 new teams, and so, they blew some teams out. They played tough. The Sea Devils played them tough week 2, and then they had the tough one last week. So they haven't had a lot of tough, close games, which is a good and bad thing, because it's like, well, if you just blow everybody out, then fuck, it doesn't matter, Sorry, I don't know if I can swear. And but then on the flip side, when you haven't had that test, when you haven't had a fourth quarter game coming down to the line, when you get it in the playoff situation, the nerves get a little bit extra if you haven't it all year. But to answer your question, I know I talk a lot, man. I got to go with Stuttgart. I said it. Okay. I said it from the jump. The same reason I like the Fire so much is I'm a fan of coaching, bro. I'm a fan of Belichick. I'm a fan of
you need it guys this time of the year too.
You need it. And Stuttgart, man, the transformation they've done this year is more than impressive. Yeah. And I believe in Newman there, and they got a group that knows even though it's kind of a new squad, it's kind of an old squad too. And so, I think though. Exactly.
That's and the best way to gel the two.
With a ton of unicorns dudes, like they have big game experience. So for me, I think they're getting healthy at the right time. I know they lost Billy Velocity mid-season, and that was a big loss for the D because he's a beast. But like the QBs, he's playing well. It seems like Stuttgart's clicking at the right time, and I got to put my money where my mouth is about the coaching, and that's not to disrespect any of the other coaches, but like Newman to me has proven that he is a dude amongst European football, and so
Absolutely.
You got to give respect where respect's due.
It almost seems like this is where, Newman has laid his foundation over the past couple of years in the GFL. And it's, these types of games in the playoffs, and which has led to championships. And again, before they've lost to the Guards, I think he had like 82 game win streak going on or something like that. But we'll dive into the Surge a little bit on the second half. But with that being said, I want to dive into that first week matchup, right? And then anybody watching, drop a comment, subscribe, join the conversation. And we always keep ELF talking going. But the Berlin Thunder making their first appearance and then going to Frankfurt, right? We have a Frankfurt team that returns back to the playoffs, year one championship run, beating the Sea Devils. It's a team whose only losses have come to the Fire, right? And they pretty much beat everyone else. Similar to what you said, don't know how tested they've been in terms of the out-of-conference games, but we're going to find out because this is the time of year. On the other side, you got a Berlin Thunder team not only making their first playoff run, but they got a top 3 defense. They got a 2-time defensive player of the year in Kyle Kitchens. If out of all the games, I say all the games, there's only 2 games this weekend, but between the two games this weekend, this game in terms of matchup is probably the closest in my opinion. So what are your thoughts on this matchup?
Defensively speaking, 100%. I mean, Kitchens is a dude. I mean, I don't know how he's in Europe at times. Like,
yeah, really.
So straight up, bro, he's a dude.
Yeah.
And both Frankfurt plays some good D2, except against the Fire. Like that's their only time they really don't
Fire's
play
their
that
kryptonite,
tough
man.
of D.
They can't beat the Fire.
I don't know. It just, at least that last game, whether it was injuries or whatever, they just didn't have. They need another corner because they just don't have that 4th DB to match up against the Fire guys. But to stay with Berlin, Frankfurt, defensive battle, probably I got to give the nod. I got to give the nod offensively to Frankfurt by a lot. To me, Berlin's defense is probably like a top 4 defense, maybe even top 3, but their offense is not top 8. It's not a playoff offense in my opinion. Like if I was going to rank teams, like to me, Berlin is 7th behind Swarco, if I'm being just straight up, but Swarco to me does not fucking deserve to make the playoffs after you get rid of your quarterback and best receiver mid-season after a win. You deserve missing the playoffs in my opinion. But so for me, like Berlin's also kind of unproven. I think their only wins, they had one good win against Wrocław. Other than that, they really only beat the Prague, the Hungarian squad. They only beat those teams that they should win. So for me, like Galaxy, again, man, we're probably not giving them as much credit as they deserve because they lost first week and last week, and other than that, they've won a ton of close games. And whether that's because they aren't playing that well and keeping guys close, or they're just winning tough games, they're winning them. And so for me, I got Frankfurt, almost no question about it, but it should be a good game with the defenses.
Yeah.
Like it'll be close. I don't want to say it's a blowout. I know when I say no question, that sounds blowout, but it'll be close. But this is the game. Like, even though I said I like Stuttgart, I have a little soft spot for Wrocław in my heart. But for me, I would bet on this one.
Okay.
I'm not a betting guy, but to shout out to Eurobowl Chow out there, the betting in every world, I would put my money, I don't know, over under straight points. I'm going Frankfurt. No second thoughts.
The one thing about Frankfurt, you do bring up a good point, is that they do find a way to win, and they've done it with multiple different types of quarterbacks throughout the season. I think they played a total of 3 different types of quarterbacks, and they've all, Jacob had a couple injuries, and they had a couple other guys So Frankfurt,
right.
they do always find a chance to win. But in terms of matchup, the way I kind of look at it is, I think I'm a defensive guy, obviously. So Berlin's defense intrigues me. I think they were a top 3, top 4 defense, but they're second in the league. They're one of the top passing defenses in the league, and I think that matches up against what Frankfurt's strength is on offense. So I think, if Berlin's defense against Frankfurt's offense, if that's a complete stall out, then it's going to come down to the other side of the ball, and that's Slade Jarman and the amount of weapons he has versus the Galaxy defense. And the Galaxy, they do have a good defense. And, Berlin lately has been giving us a little bit of fool's gold, especially heading into that Panthers game where we saw them get beat. I think in order for Berlin to win, they're going to have a big game from Max Zimmerman, who's been pretty quiet, throughout this season. They don't really have a rushing attack, so I'm not sure if he gets involved in the rushing game. I know he's more of a slot receiver, but he has to take advantage and create opportunities for that offense to get going and for Slade Jarman to, be able to distribute, because Aaron Jackson, obviously, he's got to demand some attention. Robin Vilcek's got to demand some attention. Nikolai Schumann, he does what he has to do when he's called upon. But Max Zimmerman has to be a guy to be a difference maker. So in their first appearance in this game, I'm actually taking the Berlin Thunder. I think
you're going with them.
I'm going with the Thunder. I think there's a little bit of a hangover from Frankfurt. I'm not sure, how they feel, how they're going to be coming off that game versus the Galaxy. But I think, Berlin has been one of my biggest question marks heading into the second half of the season. But in terms of matchups, I think they actually match up well versus Frankfurt. So I'm gonna go with Berlin for the upset this week.
I like, and even as you were listing that offensive squad, because Aaron Jackson is a touchdown waiting to happen any play, and Robin is another Euro dude that, again, same type of thing. Tight end is a dude, and then you add in Max, who no one's even talked about him, but he's been a staple in Euro football for a while now. He played in CFL, I believe, or I think so. I think he's had some real opportunities. So no, as you say that though, I'm like, dang, the Berlin offense should be better.
Should be better. That's the crazy thing. It's like you're waiting. It's like, all right, this game they're gonna get it. All right, they did, but not really. All right, this game. So maybe they're saving it for, their playoff game, but we'll see. There's a lot of factors going into it. Obviously, they do have an offense. They do have a young offensive coordinator. We'll see. That's
right. He's a young German dude, right? Yeah.
We'll see what he's able to draw up going against Coach Kusling's defense. But I think I'm going to rock with Berlin this week to pull off the upset versus Frankfurt. Hard work, they don't know about it.